Electro-episoded in AD 2025 Electro-episoded in AD 2025 by E.D. Skinner. Frontispiece inserting a needle point barely beyond and to the left of the higher of the two mountain peaks. He took a delicate copper wire and connected this with local. Throwing the clutch back into local, the faint outline of the mountain disappeared, and a vivid picture of the Parker Pass replaced it. Humor, we have been told by some of our critics, can never amount to much in science fiction. If we may let a secret out of the bag, the editor has been on a rampage, lately, to find a science fiction story in which there really could be a subtle humor without weakening the narrative. Well, we believe we have found it in this tale, which not only has all of the above-mentioned qualifications, but a fine O. Henry ending thrown in for good measure. Only when you have read it for the second time will you appreciate it to its fullest extent. If Lieutenant Colonel Algernon Sidney St. Johnston, NYNG, had been in a normal condition, he would certainly have been aware of a peculiar buzzing sensation in the region of his upper left-hand vest pocket, but unfortunately it so happened that his actual physical state was most emphatically subnormal. Still, he could hardly avoid the suspicion that something out of the ordinary had disturbed him, and, with blinking eyes, he searched the apartment for possible inordinate things. The first to attract his attention was a neatly folded copy of the 11 o'clock edition of the Hourly Bulletin, bearing the date, Tuesday, January the 7th. 2025, which, with its up-to-the-minute Wall Street market quotations, lay unread upon the desk before him. This he swept to the floor with an impatient sweep of his arm. Next his left hand instinctively sought, with practiced precision, a black bottle on a side desk close by. Holding the bottle to the light, his eyes told him that it was empty. Tipping it upside down above his wide-open mouth, his tongue repeated the information with emphasis. Dejectedly keeping the bottle before him, he glared in an insane fury at two green labels, one the trademark of a bygone century, and the other a bottled-in bond stamp dated, July 1, 1916, which his wisdom told him were both forgeries. Then, as the topographical details of his den became clearer to his blurred vision, his eyes picked out the recumbent form of his correctly attired and correctly featured valet slumbering peacefully and audibly in a Morris chair in the far corner, and this under the very nose of his master. Instantly the bottle was hurled at the valet's head, and the latter promptly proved his trained efficiency in the art of sleeping with one eye open by automatically and unnecessarily dodging. Finally, Algernon's superheated emotions found vent in speech. Glaring savagely at his valet, he said, "Chez you volet." He paused and chuckled for a moment at the humor of the pun. Then he repeated loudly, "Chez you volet, wake up. Listen to me. You jesh bishy on phone, tell thash bushlegger hosh thief o mine fe shins me more chuff like the ish, I she national head bushleggers trust nd jesh him fired. Thash chuff kill mule. You tell him to shave money spends on labels and buy shumpin fit f skin lemons tummock. Dash chuff kill mule. The valet fixed one eye on his master, the other being blackened and fully closed, and answered promptly and precisely, "Yes, sir." "As you say, sir." "But, begging your pardon, sir, the gentleman sent word yesterday that you should not drink any of that, as it was dangerous. He said, begging your pardon, sir, that the goods they make for the common people had been sent you by mistake." He apologized most profusely. Algernon turned on his valet in a fury. "En you lesh me kill himself wish thash chaff," he cried. "Thash chaff kill mule." "Begging your pardon, sir," replied the valet, "I did object to the best of my ability. But you resisted most violently, blackening my eye and knocking me unconscious into this chair, so that I only recovered just as you spoke a moment ago. That poison must have temporarily deranged your intellect, sir." "Dash it. Poison deranged intellect. Dash chaff kill mule. Too bad. Here, take the ish." And Algernon took a bill from his pocket and tossed it at his valet. For a moment he sat quietly as if in a profound study, and then another idea struck him. "Shay you shrimp. Whash staring to me like owl for," he said, addressing the valet. "Jesh bishy on phone, tell Bushlega dog shind me noza case quick. Tell him I got awfoo thirst." "Yes, sir." "As you say, sir," replied the valet with alacrity. "But, begging your pardon, sir, the gentleman did promise to send another case yesterday, and, begging your pardon, sir, I believe he would have done so, if the federal officers had not raided him and put him in jail." For a moment Algernon stared at his valet in a speechless rage that partly sobered him. Then the words came in a torrent of choice but incoherent invective. "Was it?" he cried. "Thush, curs jesh my bushlega. I jesh them quick." He paused a second for breath, eyeing his valet the while with maudlin profundity, and then he continued, "Shay you monkey-face reptile, whash staring me for," he exploded. "Jesh bishi. Jesh bishi on phone. Use P8 code. Tell nationals chifty call hish dogs of my bushlega once. Tell him I get his scalp sure. Tell him the ish algnon shiddy shaint shon one. Why you en Erston? Algnon shiddy shaint shon one." With a "Yes, sir." "At once, sir." "As you say, sir," the valet obeyed promptly, and was soon buried in his master's private code book, while Algernon, now considerably sobered by his rage, became fully conscious of the peculiar buzzing sensation in the region of his upper left-hand vest pocket, and of the fact that this buzzing indicated beyond a doubt that his fiancée, Esmeralda Clementine Jones Brinson, desired to communicate with him. Well versed as he was in the art of managing the female of the species in the infinite variety of moods to which she is addicted, a quizzical smile played for a moment around his lips as he realized that his inadvertent delay in answering his Esmeralda's call had accidentally turned out a masterstroke. She had ridden her high horse in the recent row, had flaunted a daring defiance of his most earnest wishes in his very face, and had finished by throwing her engagement ring contemptuously at his feet. Presumably she was contrite now, and ready for a reconciliation. But he well knew that, if he would not be bullied through life by his future wife, he must maintain the upper hand throughout the engagement period, and his delay in answering would have a chastening effect. The row had started when he presented Esmeralda, as a birthday present, with one of two specially designed miniature radio receiving and broadcasting sets. His own carried the equipment in a small gold case in his vest pocket, while the wiring, the antenna, and the steel frame which held the headphone in place with microphone pendant before the mouth, was coiled and folded in a tiny golden receptacle on the outside of the pocket. The steel wiring was electro-retempered by a new process, which increased its tensile strength 100-fold, while the copper was first tempered by the rediscovered process which for centuries had been a lost art and then electro-retempered the same as the steel. So that, while of gossamer-like delicacy in appearance, the whole apparatus was in fact much stronger than the old styles. Both sets were permanently adjusted to the delicately complicated, alternating E.V.R.X.Y.Z wavelength, which the makers believed proof against duplication, and which they guaranteed against static within a radius of 10,000 miles under any possible conditions. The cover of the outer receptacle of his own set was in shape a gold shield, with a spread eagle engraved rampant upon a South Sea island golden sunset field on its face. This was liable to be mistaken, by its appearance, for a decoration of European royalty, and Esmeralda had agreed with him that it was quite nifty. But hers was contained in the back of a very thin wrist watch, and that was where the trouble started. She wanted a lavalier as a decoration for her bosom. And, growing sarcastic towards the last, he had admitted that that portion of her anatomy did need some kind of covering, but he had denied the efficacy of the lavalier idea for that special purpose. He had contended that both the décolleté in the front and the open back features of her gowns should stop at the lines of curvature. He had even launched into a general tirade against a number of her recent costumes, and had called them picture frame conceptions, because they performed a similar function in that they merely furnished the setting for emphasizing the details of the things revealed. That, as he had believed, had settled their argument. But 2 days before this, she had appeared adorned with the best that Wertheimer, the Paris arbiter of the world's fashions, could devise in the way of a realization of his picture frame sarcasm, and the row that resulted had, this time, been hectic on both sides, with her scoring the final point by throwing her engagement ring at his feet. Then, through the great electrovisional dial attached to his general radio outfit, he had watched her take off from the roof in her runabout monoplane, had noted the reckless speed with which she drove it through the air, had chuckled when an aerial speed cop took her license number and tagged her by shooting the citation into the rear of her machine, had seen her land on her own roof and, a moment later, had watched her take off again in her large touring biplane and rapidly grow into a tiny speck in the western sky. Evidently his Esmeralda was a high-strung thoroughbred, who meant business when her dander was up. For a brief moment Algernon made a profound effort to solve the problem as to just how long he should keep her waiting before he answered her call. The nice adjustment of time to the particular individuality of the person concerned under the correlated circumstances enumerated, was a matter of supreme importance. Then, suddenly, the idea occurred that she might have met with an accident. Instantly he acted. Touching a spring on the golden radio receptacle on his vest pocket, he caught the released framework in his hand, slipped the catch that allowed it to snap into shape, and quickly adjusted it to his face. Then, choosing his words carefully and sparingly, he spoke into the pendant microphone with an attempted precision to conceal his thick tongue, asking, "This you, ESM Alder?" "Yes, this is me," she snapped back promptly. "Who did you suppose it was? Have you been giving away any more of these special radio sets to any other female? If I catch you playing any tricks on me with any other hussy, I'll make you wish that you had never been born." If, patiently, and speaking more clearly than before, Algernon stopped the flow of words by interjecting another query. "Want anything particular?" he asked. "Yes. I want help quick, right this minute," she answered. "My leg is broken and I can't move, and there is a nasty big tiger on the ledge right over my head just ready to spring on me and eat me up. I was flying west in my big plane, and I was out of our district where everybody knows me and Papa has them all fixed, and I was away out here where nobody knows me, and one of those beastly Purity League sleuths caught me powdering my nose, and he chased me, and I stepped on the gas and hit the 200 miles an hour clip, and I thought of that new electric spark screen broadcaster you had attached to the plane, and I turned that loose, and then I circled behind the screen, and that brute must have chased me into the ocean, for I ran straight into this mountain before I could see where I was going, and I fell 1,000 feet or more, and I broke my leg so I can't move, and that horrid tiger." Algernon's stoppage of the verbal torrent was decidedly impatient this time. "Shalezen," he broke in. "If you don't tell where at, I can't find you. Tell in code." "Ain't I telling you just as fast as I can?" she retorted. "I've been talking just as fast as I could make my tongue go ever since you finally answered me, and you took an awful long time in answering, and I can't tell you where I am at if you don't let me talk, and I think you are a brute, and I believe you are still drunk, and here is the location in code, 693-1-41. 396-1-141, 356-1-22, 690-2-142, and be sure you put it down on paper right away so you don't forget, but Algernon had hung up. By now he was sober enough to realize that he was not sober enough for the task in hand. So he quickly snapped the bracelets of an electric regenerator around his wrists, set the regulator at 2 seconds, lapsed into unconsciousness, and awoke at the end of that time an entirely different man, as the result of the equivalent of 2 nights' natural sleep. His first move on awakening was to reach for a button in the desk before him marked Package Transporter, but he paused with the movement half completed, as a look of pain distorted his face. For a moment he clasped both hands across his forehead, moaning, in helpless misery, "My God! What a headache!" His helplessness, however, was only temporary. Turning to a silver urn behind him, which bore the golden inlaid legend, "Pasteurized water," he pressed what appeared to be a part of a carved figure in the mahogany base, and a secret drawer shot out, revealing a number of coffee cups, spoons and a box of tablets labeled, equivalent, 2 spoons sugar and 1 jigger cream. Dropping one of these tablets and a spoon into a cup, he set it down on his desk. Next he took a diminutive collapsible microscope, with a lens of flexible glass, out of his pocket, and, with its aid, picked out an all but invisible needlepoint concealed in the filigree ornamentation of the faucet of the urn. This he pressed with his fingernail. Then he pushed a button in the faucet labeled hot and filled the coffee cup as he mumbled jubilantly to himself, "Some trick this. You get your pasteurized water according to government regulations all right, but, oh, you naughty little needle." He eyed the dubious-looking mixture that flowed into the cup for a suspicious moment, tasted it hopefully, and then, livid with rage, spat the stuff out and hurled the cup across the room. Speechless for a moment, he controlled himself with an effort, and then, with desperate haste, unlocked a private drawer in his desk and opened it halfway to a visible line. Pulling a cord hanging over his head, which started an electric fan going, and which, in this precise connection, also caused a slight orifice in the panel of the drawer to unfold, revealing an assortment of crystalline white and brownish-looking pills, he selected one of the white pills, placed it in his mouth and crunched it between his teeth to get quick action. In spite of his vigilant valets begging your pardon, sir, protest. "Can't help it, John," he said. "This is a real emergency and I simply have got to have something. On the face of things, it looks like the narcotics are the only genuine stuff left to us by the bootlegger smuggler prohibitionist combine." The look of pain that had distorted his features quickly disappeared, and in its place there came the comforting jubilance of an anticipated pleasure. Turning to a combination lock to the cash drawer of his desk, he set the knob at 0, turned it forward to 20, back to 15, forward again to 2, back to 1 again, forward to 3, back a full revolution again to 3, and lastly forward to the final 15. Then he applied a firm, steady pressure to the knob, and a circular segment of the floor upon which the desk stood, and whose scarcely discernible outline blended so perfectly with the inlaid floral scroll design of the floor as to appear an integral part of it, revolved half around, disclosing a considerable compartment filled with sealed tins of tobacco, and a varied assortment of pipes. Filling a briar from a half-empty tin, he adjusted the patent smoke consumer, pushed a button in the desk which caused the room to be sprayed with an atomized disinfectant which deodorized the fumes and prevented external detection of the felonious act, lit up and took long, deep draughts at the pipe. The serene content of an anticipated joy realized, stole over his face, and, discreetly to himself, he murmured defiantly, The skunks caught me napping with their anti-coffee law all right, but I was Johnny on the spot when they prohibited tobacco, and I prepared myself for life. Then, with clear-headed precision, he proceeded to business. Instructing his valet to make careful notations on a tablet to avoid mistakes, he dictated, "As soon as you are through with that booze prohibition officer, prepare a message in code for this white-livered rat who sold me this trick," pointing to the urn. "Tell him to take back this synthetic coffee extract he stung me with, and credit its cost on my account. I won't pay for it. Tell him to send me at once 1 gallon genuine centuple extract of mocha coffee, if he has it, and be sure to emphasize the genuine. If he hasn't the mocha, tell him to get it as soon as possible, and, in the meantime, he shall send me 1 gill of any genuine, emphasize that genuine, coffee extract that he has. If he claims that he can't get the genuine through, as he probably will, for the crook is without doubt trying to bull the market, tell him that I know positively that he is in with the opium smuggling gang, that I know he can get the genuine coffee through just as they get genuine dope through, if he wants to, and that I will set the federal officers after him, and see to it that he gets life, if he is gay with me. Get the fact into the numbskull's head, if you can, that he is dealing with Algernon Sidney St. Johnston and not with one of the common people." With the dictation completed, Algernon suddenly became conscious of the fact that his system was demanding sustenance after his prolonged fast, in plain words, that he was vulgarly hungry, and so, having no time to partake of a regulation repast in the regulation manner, he pulled a gold case from his pocket, extracted a couple of tablets stamped, equivalent, 1 full meal and hastily swallowed them. Refreshed and invigorated by the nourishment so seriously needed, he proceeded to quick, effective action. Pressing a button in his desk marked P.T, an apparently ornamental filigree upon the ceiling dropped and snapped into the form of a suspended package transporter. Pushing a button on the receiver of the transporter numbered 7826, a book, stamped with that number, promptly slid into his hand. The book proved to be a Laird and Lee's Common School edition of Webster's New Standard Dictionary of the copyright date of 1912. He had chosen this as his and Esmeralda's private code book, because he believed that the 2 copies possessed by them were all that remained in existence. Slipping the book into his lightning code decipherer, he touched the numbered keys of its keyboard in the numerical combination given him by Esmeralda in her message, and the delicate wire arms quickly turned the pages and picked out for him the words, "Parker Pass, Mount and McKinley." Remembering the tiger she had spoken of, he was puzzled for a moment by the manifest absurdity of looking for such an animal in the eternal snows of the Alaskan mountains, and then he thought of the electrovisional dial. Turning to a globe contained in a complicated mechanism behind him, he picked 2 fine needle points out of a holder, pressed one through its gelatine surface at Mount McKinley and the other into New York City. Giving the globe a single revolution, the indicator of the Lightning Airline distance calculator promptly registered 3,668 miles, 264 feet, 00 inches. Throwing the clutch of his electrovisional into the 3,670-mile circuit, he picked out, with the aid of his microscope, the faint outline of the twin heads of Denali and his wife barely within the W.N.W sector of the white circle that appeared on the dial. Inserting a needle point barely beyond and to the left of the higher of the two mountain peaks, he took a delicate copper wire and connected this with local. Throwing the clutch back into local, the faint outline of the mountain disappeared, and a vivid picture of Parker Pass replaced it. But, even with his microscope, he could find nothing of his Esmeralda. Finally, in the lower end, he picked out a faint blur of fine lines, flashing, disappearing, and flashing again, and, remembering that she had her electric spark screen broadcaster working at the time of her mishap, he reasoned that the thing was probably operating even yet, and that, therefore, he had at last definitely located his beloved. For a moment the incongruous tiger tormented him, but he figured that she, in her evident excitement, had probably distorted or incorrectly expressed a glimpse at a mountain goat, or something of that sort. Having successfully solved the problem of his Esmeralda's whereabouts, his next move was to apply to the National Aerial Control Bureau in Washington for a special permit, with right-of-way for an electric flash transit to Mount McKinley, Alaska, between the 20,000 and 22,000 feet strata, with return privilege under his own power starting 3 minutes from moment of application. He also demanded photographed copies of permit and necessary orders. Permit, etc., scarcely needed at that altitude, especially as only one other electric flash machine yet in existence, and that, the clerk attempted to expostulate. But Algernon peremptorily shut off the sluggish clerk's remonstrances. "Cut advice, stunt about what I need," he broke in, "and get busy with what I want, or I'll call the chief. Do you realize whom you are dealing with? Now get busy, and snap to IT." And, seeing in his electrovisional that the magic of his name had produced instant snapping to it activities on the part of the clerk, he connected up his radio electrophotographing camera, and turned his attention to the last necessary detail to be arranged before his departure. Slipping the plug of his radiophone into the E.V.R wavelength socket, he snapped the framework of its headphone and microphone combination over his face, and called softly, "Charlie Grant there?" "Yep. This is Charlie speaking," his broker's voice replied, with terse economy of words. Recognizing the voice, Algernon's next question was to the point. "Anything doing on change?" he asked. "Quiet as a chink funeral now, just over flurry," his broker answered. 2 weeks ago rumor broadcast President saw about inefficiency of old Jim McDonald, Chief National Law Enforcement Bureau, and National Bootlegger Consolidated dropped 10 points. 2 days later Jim resigned, and NBC lost 20 points. Next day President appointed Wheeler Wayne, who has never taken a drink in his life, where anybody could catch him at it, and N.B.C hit the skids for 50 points. Wayne's first move was to order your local bootlegger, Lippincott, raided and jailed, and the bottom fell clear out of N.B.C. For nearly a whole day the pit was stormed by a mob of the faint-hearted in a panic, begging anybody and everybody to take their bootlegger stock off their hands for anything they would give. I had inside tip that officers only found 1 quart in Lippincott's possession, so I did the charitable act, in your name, by relieving them of 10 millions. Would have plunged deeper but afraid of complicating other deals. 2 days later old Jim McDonald and Bill Jenkins, head National Bootlegger Trust, settled squabble about Jim's demand for more dough, and the evidence against Lippincott was lost. He was turned loose, and N.B.C. floated back to normal. With care can unload and clean up about 2 millions, or can hang on, just as you say. Turning to one side Algernon slipped a sheet of paper into, and switched the connection into what looked like a complicated development of the original typewriter, and then replied to his broker. "You did fine, Charlie," he said. "Don't forget that you double your regular percentage when I am off the reservation." Then, after a momentary hesitation to consider, he continued, "Tell bookkeeper to read statement into private radiophone at once, as I already have radio electro-dictaphonotypograph connected. Unload bootlegger stock as soon as you can without sacrificing profits that you are sure of, as I don't want my name publicly mixed in the business. And now listen, Charlie. I'm going away for a bit, probably for only a day or so, if nothing unforeseen happens. If you want me, call on regular E.V.R, but use long distance. If you think it best to look for me, come over here and use my electrovisional. We'll probably be in neighborhood of Mount McKinley in 3670-mile circuit and W.N.W sector. Goodbye." As Algernon ceased speaking, the silvery ting of a little bell on his radio electrophotographing camera notified him of the receipt of the photographed copies of his government permit and the correlating orders issued, while the discontinuance of the rapid tick-tick of his radio electrodictaphonotypograph told him that his broker's bookkeeper had completed his statement. From the former he extracted 2 slips of paper, and found them correct. But he studied the sheet of paper that he took from the latter for a moment, in a perplexed confusion at the phonetic simplicity of the spelling of the words. Then, reflecting that this mathematically exact translation of oral sound would eventually assist in the elimination of the orthographic absurdities which always had burdened a language that is too complex at its best, he shoved this into an inside pocket along with the other 2, and, pressing a button in the side wall which opened a small door leading into a one-person-sized compartment in a perpendicular pneumatic tube, he stepped within, and was shot to the roof. Going to the largest of the hangars that dotted the roof, he pushed a button, and the door flew open, and a glistening electro-retempered copper monstrosity trundled out on a truck. The best that could be said for its shape was that it looked like a gigantic beer bottle. Stepping to the mouth of the bottle he pressed a button, and the stopper flew out with a loud report. Entering the narrow passageway through the neck he switched on the electric lights and found himself in a spacious, tempered glass compartment blown into the framework in such a way as to practically surround itself with a vacuum space, and with the few necessary contacts elaborately insulated. A yank at a lever started an oxygen supply apparatus, already set at one person, going, and a touched button caused the stopper to fly back into place with another loud report. From a mahogany wardrobe he took a bearskin fursuit which was lined with finely woven copper wire cloth. Stepping into this, he set the interior heat regulator at 65 degrees Fahrenheit, adjusted the connection with the concealed storage battery, and pushed the spring which caused the suit to snap to and fasten. A shifted lever on a large keyboard set the interior temperature regulator of the compartment going at a 65-degree adjustment. Another started the electrovisional. A third connected a small dynamo with the atomic energy reservoir and started it supplying the comparatively trifling electrical needs. A fourth completed a similar direct connection with the rest of the mechanism, and a fifth released an electron of atomic energy from the basic atom into the atomic energy reservoir to maintain the parity of the supply. Seating himself in an upholstered chair, he prepared for quick and decisive action. With one hand he pulled down the helicopter lever, and, through the electrovisional saw a huge, electro-retempered steel solid corkscrew-like device with a screw 50 feet deep in the groove, shoot into the air. Setting its regulator at half speed he touched a button and began to ascend slowly. When the altitude indicator registered 1,000 feet he turned full speed into the helicopter device and finished with a rush. At 20,000 feet he shut the helicopter down to maintenance of altitude speed, pulled a lever which released a huge propeller from its underneath pocket, and set it going at full speed in reverse, yanked the lever back at 21,500 feet and came to a full stop at 22,000 feet with the underneath propeller roaring noisily but harmlessly in its enclosed pocket. Turning to the electrovisional dial, he threw the clutch into the 3,670-mile circuit, picked out the faint outline of the higher peak of Mount McKinley, and stuck a needle point into it. This he connected, by means of a delicate copper wire, with local, which he knew was permanently connected in a similar manner with the gigantic dynamo at Niagara Falls. Set the regulator of his electric flash at .017 seconds, pushed a button which shut off the helicopter, yanked back the lever which collapsed it into its overhead pocket, and, as he heard the heavy copper plates bang shut over all, he closed his eyes and touched the final button. Then, in spite of all precautions, he was nearly blinded by the vivid lightning that enveloped the entire machine, and, notwithstanding the intricate system of shock absorbers, he thought for a moment that he had been yanked in two as he was shot through space at the rate of 186,000 miles per second. And then, as if it was a reflex of the original yank, came the answering tug of the rear propeller as it automatically shot out of its pocket going full speed in reverse. Opening his eyes with nerves taut for the crucial moment, he reached for the plane wing lever with one hand, and glanced at the speedometer for the indication of the moment when it would be safe, and necessary, that he throw out his biplane wings of electro-retempered steel with a spread of 150 feet. Then, suddenly, the dual peaks of Mount McKinley appeared directly in front of his electrovisional, and, throwing caution to the winds, he yanked down the plane wing lever, and heard the rattle and bang of the adjustments, and saw that the apparatus was withstanding a severer test than it was guaranteed for. And then, even as he looked, the higher peak of the mountain appeared directly underneath, and, with instinctive recklessness, he gave the steering lever a yank which turned the machine on its tail at a sharp right angle, missing a spill by a fraction of a hair, jerked another lever which tipped it into a practically perpendicular nosedive, snapped that lever back again and righted himself, shoved down the helicopter lever and touched the button which shot that corkscrew-like device aloft. Going at maintenance of altitude speed, yanked back the lever of the rear propeller which brought that instrument rattling back into its pocket where it roared in a harmless fury, and, with a jolt, came to a full stop, while beads of perspiration broke out on his forehead at his narrow escape, though a triumphant smile played about his lips as he thought of the sensation he would create in the next aerial Olympic, and his brain registered the mental note for future reference that it was his rear propeller going full speed in reverse that had held him and saved a spill on that acute, right-angle turn. A glance at his electrovisional showed that he was parallel with, and but a few feet away from, the top of the cliff above Parker Pass, and the first thing he saw was Esmeralda's biplane with its nose buried in a cake of ice. But its spark screen broadcaster was humming merrily, and its rear spotlight revealed the details below, behind the screen in vivid detail. Directly below the wrecked biplane, he quickly discovered his beloved Esmeralda standing waist-deep in the snow, with one arm raised as if to repel an expected attack, and still clad in the picture frame costume which had caused their woe. A glimpse at his exterior temperature indicator which registered 60 degrees below zero caused a fleeting fear of dire results from her bare-skinned exposure, but a reflection on the proven ability of the female of the species for facing wintry blasts in scanty attire, quickly chased his fears away, and he turned his attention to the direction indicated by her upraised, protesting arm. And then, to an absolute certainty, he discovered the figure of a monstrous Royal Bengal tiger on the ledge above her, which was poised in the attitude for its final, fatal spring upon its prey. With frantic energy he yanked down the landing lever of the helicopter, grabbed the parachute, pushed the button which unstopped the bottle and jumped, making the descent in record time, but landing so violently that he was buried in the snow, because, in his panic, he forgot to pull the string of his parachute until he was 2/3 down. A momentary fear of being smothered in the snow was followed by a spasm of skilled football tactics in bucking and squirming his way out, and, floundering frantically towards his beloved, he yelled at the top of his voice, "Esmeralda! My darling! I am here!" With the stately grace of a real blue-blooded aristocrat, the royal maiden turned majestically, and froze the heart within him with a frigid glare, such as only those with 4 centuries of unmixed Mayflower blood in their veins can hope to aspire to. Your presence is sufficiently perceptible, she said in measured tones, to preclude any necessity for such boisterous conduct. In the future, when we are abroad together, it will please me greatly if you bring your manners along with you, instead of leaving them at home. Also, I would remind you that you have been 15 whole minutes in answering my call. And then nature claimed its own, and, womanlike, Esmeralda fell fainting into her lover's arms, murmuring as she lost consciousness, "Algy, my darling, my savior." For a brief moment Algernon pressed the inanimate form of his sweetheart to his manly breast, and showered a storm of passionate kisses upon a wisp of her hair as it floated in the breeze against his nose, and then he bethought him of that poised tiger on the ledge above. Quickly he pulled his electric automatic, aimed carefully at the beast's heart, and pressed the button. A black spot showed on the spot he had aimed at, and the air became filled with the pungent odor of burned hair, but the brute above remained in an apparently statuesque unconsciousness of the assault. Nonplussed and dumbfounded, Algernon pulled out his collapsible opera glasses, adjusted them, and studied the perplexing phenomenon closely. Then at last a ray of light penetrated his brain as the memory of a forgotten incident recurred to him, and he mentally connected this incident with the enigma above. Realizing the simple truth at last, he burst into uproarious laughter and yelled at the top of his voice in unrestrained glee, until the dormant echoes of the great silent north awakened from their age-old slumbers, and an avalanche of snow was loosened from its mooring on the opposite mountainside. Algernon had remembered that, some 6 months before, a Royal Bengal tiger had escaped from Barnum and Bailey's circus, while it was showing at Des Moines, Iowa, and that the efforts to recapture it had only resulted in driving it into the northern wilderness. This, then, was that tiger. Happening in the neighborhood and naturally in a famished condition, a scent of Esmeralda had reached it and had aroused its savage instincts. But, as it stole out onto the ledge for the final, fatal spring, being unused to northern temperatures, the 60 degrees below zero gale had frozen it dead in its tracks. And then, just as all his troubles and worries seemed to have vanished, the whir of an airplane engine turned his eyes upwards, and, directly overhead, he saw a Purity League biplane circling for a landing. With frantic energy he shook the unconscious form that reposed in his arms, and shouted into her ear at the top of his voice, "Esmeralda, darling, wake up. That Purity League sleuth has found us. He is sure to be one of those ex-convict crooks working on a percentage for what he can get, and, if he catches you out here in public in that costume, he will rush you into one of his kangaroo courts, and railroad you into jail. Wake up." The sharp angle of Mary Jane's bony kneecap, adept from practice and forcibly by instinct, projected into my left-hand lower short ribs, finally aroused me, and, as if it were an echo of my dream, I distinctly heard the dulcet tones of her gentle voice in my ear, shouting, "Wake up you, John Henry. You're snoring like a horse. Haven't I told you times enough never to sleep on your back? Turn over on your right side." And you've been talking something awful in your sleep, too. Who's this darling Esmeralda anyway? If I catch her monkeying with you, I'll scratch her eyes out. None of your lies, now. There wasn't any Esmeralda in that picture play we saw tonight, so you better not try to spring anything of that sort on me. Why don't you? But, peeved by my rude awakening, and not feeling well anyway, I stopped the verbal torrent by breaking in. If you can't be satisfied with nagging at me about nothing all day, but you must go waking me up in the middle of the night to keep it up, I'll move into the spare room, and let you sleep by yourself, I threatened. Besides, I added, you've got me crowded clear off onto the bed rail, and nobody could sleep like that, anyway. Mary Jane, my wife, was contrite and very humble at once, which shows that I know how to manage her properly when I really want to. I didn't wake you up to nag at you, John, she said penitently, as she snuggled up to me and reached out her hand to caress me. But that stuff of yours down in the cellar has been popping off to beat the band for an hour, and I just know that you'll lose the whole batch if you don't tend to it right away. I told you that you were bottling it too soon, but it never does any good for me to say anything. You'll just, well, if it's going to pop it's going to, and that's all there is to it, I broke in petulantly. If you think you know so much more about it than I do, you can just make the next batch yourself and see if you can do any better. Now move over and give me enough of the bed to lie comfortably in, and give me a chance to get a little sleep. And, as my better half squirmed back to her own side of the bed, I turned over upon my right side and slept fairly well for the rest of the night. The end. Transcriber's note: this story appeared in the August 1927 issue of Amazing Stories magazine. ******* End of the Project Gutenberg ebook Electro-episoded in AD 2025 ****** Updated editions will replace the previous one, the old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start, Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works 1.0. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, Check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, If you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark symbol website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1. Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty. Disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the Foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the Foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees. that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark symbol's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark symbol and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, UT 84116. 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact. Section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks.